Given that Rolex is the most well-known luxury watch brand worldwide, a lot of what is claimed about them is genuine. I'm here to tell you the truth about the almighty crown and to help you distinguish fact from myth. Rolex wasn't founded in Switzerland. At the foot of each Rolex dial are two words: Swiss made. Rolex is as synonymous with Swiss watchmaking as shelled nut butter is to jam in a sandwich, so it's essentially a given that Rolex is in fact a Swiss watchmaker. Well, it is presently, with numerous manufacturing plants found over Switzerland, creating all the components required to construct an observer. But that hasn't continuously been the case. When Rolex was established in 1905, it was based in Hatton Cultivate, London, Britain. The Rolex title came to originator H. Wilsdorf in 1908, on a coach ride through London, and the primary chronometric evaluations on Rolex watches were performed when Rolex was still based in London. It wasn't until 1919, when post-war purport obligations made England restrictively costly to function, that Rolex moved to Geneva, Switzerland. Maybe on the off chance that the primary world war had never happened, Rolex would still be British. Rolex didn't reach the top of Everest first. In 1953, spearheading pioneers Sir Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay came to the summit of Everest exceptionally to begin with. Indeed, nowadays, Everest remains one of the Earth's most noteworthy challenges, the solidified summit littered with the bodies of the unsuccessful. And once that top had been prevailed, a front-page Rolex advertisement was distributed celebrating the accomplishment of its watches surviving that awesome difficulty. But not one or the other Sir Edmund Hillary or Tenzing Norgay were wearing Rolex watches. It was a British endeavor outfitted with British hardware, counting British Smiths' observations. Smiths complained almost the advert, provoking Rolex to recognize its mistruth and distribute a letter of statement of regret within the Horological Journal. Rolex didn't use 904L steel first. In 1985, Rolex made an essential alter that was totally intangible. It exchanged the chemical cosmetics of its stainless steel from 316L to 904L. Apparently indistinguishable, the amalgam of 904L steel offers more prominent resistance to erosion and settling caused by seawater. It's too accepted that 904L steel is harder than 316L, but the fabric is not one or the other harder nor more grounded. It was, to begin with, utilized by plunging organization Comex and its gear, which incited Omega to take after suit in 1972, badging the 904L Uranus steel. The exploratory PLPR was utilized to test 904L, but Omega eventually returned to 316L. Rolex was worn on the moon. It's commonly accepted that the Omega Speedmaster moonwatch was, as it was observed, worn on the moon, that there was no Rolex ever worn on the moon. Yes, the Speedmaster was the primary observer to be worn on the moon, but it wasn't the same as it was. As well as the Belova, the Rolex GMT Master was a prevalent choice among space travelers, counting ones that strolled on the moon. Initially pointed at interconversion pilots, the GMT Master was worn by legends like Chuck Yeager, and so of course it became an individual choice for spacefaring pilots as well, numerous of whom had cut their teeth as military test pilots. Jack Swigert, Jim Lovell, and Ron Evans were all well-known GMT Master proprietors, but it's Ed Mitchell who's been affirmed to have worn it on the lunar surface. In reality, he's accepted to have taken two GMT Masters nearby his standard issue Omega. Rolex watches weren't always expensive. You do not get to be the foremost celebrated brand on soil by being costly. By the 1950s, Rolex had earned notoriety for its tough wristwatches, and the changing tide from stash watch wearing had given it an opportunity of a lifetime. It was in this period that Rolex did anything it might to outfit the wrists of the foremost noteworthy individuals on the planet, counting jumpers, pioneers, pilots, officers, and of course, space travelers. Rolex watches weren't available in civilian stores. They were for deal through the outfitted strengths and for costs indeed officers may manage. In truth, amid World War II, Rolex advertised watches in advance to officers to be paid back once they returned. So instead of costing numerous months of the normal salary like it does nowadays, a Rolex observer might be obtained for less than a single month of a soldier's compensation. Rolex failed the US Navy's tests. Nowadays, the cooperative energy between Rolex and the outfitted strengths, especially the Navy, is outright, with the celebrated Sea Dweller created hand-in-hand with the US Navy's test Sea Lab venture. Typically where the submariner advanced with the expansion of a thicker case back in gem, also the helium elude valve that anticipated the gem from popping off amid decompression, but Rolex's beginning with the US Naval Force was not smooth cruising. Upon submitting the primary Rolex Submariner for trials in 1958, the US Naval Force rejected the Observer, citing it as not adequately waterproof. The US Naval Force exacted other complaints at Rolex, posting the bezel as effectively stuck in mud and the crystal prone to misting. A Rolex isn't the highest quality watch. It's genuine that Rolex has earned a reputation for being the single most fruitful extravagance brand within the whole world, but that doesn't mean it's the most excellent. Distant from it, in truth. A Rolex Observer draws its ancestry from a collection of rough but ultimately simple timekeepers that are a long way bashful from being the finest in any category, least of all quality. When Rolex was established in 1905, it was as of now centuries behind the competition. So instead of attempting to challenge the industry on what as of now existed, it overhauled the equation from fragile artisanal manifestations to strong proficient instruments. From a jumper or a pilot, there's no requirement for luxury. Operational unwavering quality was all that was required. And so, indeed, in spite of the fact that Rolex nowadays has included a bit of sparkle to its watches, they still do not attempt to compete with the finest on quality. That's just not who they are. Rolex watches do tick. A common trap for spotting a fake Rolex is to search for a ticking moment hand. But in genuine truth, each Rolex ticks. A quartz development frequently utilized in cheap fakes ticks once per moment to amplify the battery life. Though the mechanical development in an honest-to-goodness Rolex shows up to have a smooth clear, it is, in truth, ticking 8 times per second, almost subtle to the human eye. Moreover, these days, fake Rolex watches do have mechanical developments. In case you need to decide genuine from fake, it's conceivable by the feel of the wind through the crown, which ought to be smooth and can feel abrasive on a fake. Truly, the development itself should be assessed. Tudor is not the only Rolex sub-brand. In 1927, Rolex creator Hans Wilsdorf had the foreknowledge to form a reasonable branch of his popular brand, so he may extend his showcase and offer more observations to more individuals and more organizations. The Tudor brand was embraced by numerous of the world's outfitted powers, over and past the proportionate Submariner since it was cheaper but no less effective. But Tudor didn't stand alone as a Rolex branch since H. Wilsdorf enrolled a long list of brand names that would also go on the advert. Rolex points to broadening its showcase by offering to a more extensive gathering of people, counting people and organizations. This methodology led to the appropriation of the Tudor brand by numerous militaries. The Tudor, more reasonable than the Submariner, advertised comparable execution. In any case, Tudor wasn't the Rolex-affiliated brand. H. Wilsdorf enlisted various names utilized on different watches, such as Marcone, Unicorn, Rolco, Oyster Watch Co., and Genex. Claims of Rolex rarity deserve scrutiny. Display windows regularly grandstand exhibition-only models, whereas sought-after observers exchange over retail. In any case, Rolex generation is critical. Gages propose the brand makes 1 million observers every year, with an unused $1.1 billion office set to extend capacity by 2029 to meet developing requests. This development proposes future cost redresses. What Rolex myths need debunking? Share your considerations within the comments below. Thanks for being here with us at ventichic. Don't forget to like and comment on this video. Make sure you subscribe to our channel so you never miss an overhaul. See you in our following video.